Morning we're going to rig the crow's feet. There was a error in the instruction, that no mention was made of a black line, and I actually rigged the entire thing with natural thread, only to go on the pictures and see that the UFRO block, I hope that's how it's pronounced, is actually painted black, and it's rigged with black line. So I had to redo it. And then the other mistake I made is I didn't realize how close it was to the smaller block. So two errors in the space of one issue. It's the threading is exactly as it's laid out in the instruction here, and that you start in the middle, go down, up and down, and from side to side, and you start on the front of the block, working your way to the back, and that's quite obvious. You couldn't work on the back and be able to get the thread at the front of the block. It also doesn't tell you how many threads to run through the first hole and how many to run through the second hole. They're roughly the same size, so I just divide them by half. I lashed the block onto the preventer stay and actually used CA to make sure that it didn't move from this position. I also did not use the dimension that was given on the plan. Rather, I took the dimension from the top here to the block off the plan to establish where it was. I thought that that was a more accurate way of deciding the distance for the crow's feet. You will need to hang the line to make sure that any glue that gets on the main line does not end up getting hard with a bent shape in it. The length of the line to run in the forward crow's feet was 105 centimeters. A long piece of line, but there's a lot of string to run inside there. We've started on number 7, coming from the port, come through the UFRO block into number 8, and then you need to, using the needle threader, pull it through and tighten it up. Now back into the UFRO block. You're always coming from the UFRO block, and the string must go from the top down. So this is relatively easy to thread from the top. I should never have said that. And back with the needle threader again. And back through the UFRO block from port to starboard. So you're going to do this back and forward until you get 7 lines run through the front hole of the UFRO block, and then you switch to the back hole. So you'll have an even number of lines going through. Try when you're tensioning it to make sure that all the lines look roughly the same tension. Otherwise, when you tighten it up on the tackle here, some will get tight and some will stay slack. I wish there was a magic formula to tell you how to do that, but I haven't come across it, and I've actually had to do this a few times to get it right. So here's the 7th one on this side. So this is number 8, and we will have to go to the lower hole now as we come out of this one. As you come to the end, you should have 2 holes on this side and 1 hole on that side. If you don't, you've done something out of sequence. And it just means it's not fatal. You just need to start over and you have the error. Remember the theory, the last one is always the problem one. And then what I like to do is I temporarily want to just put it under this one here, because the most important thing in terms of the look of the job you've just done is when you pull this block, everything should tighten up evenly. Which means that the tension on all these various ropes should be approximately the same. It took a little bit of adjusting, but we eventually got it sorted out, and it came out twice. I actually had to do this twice to get it right. The crow's feet for the mizzen mast is completed. It has 2 less holes in it, so you just start at number 6 and it'll end exactly the same way as the one for the main mast. You can also use a shorter line. I would say anywhere around 90 centimeters should be more than enough to run the crow's feet. I have to say, putting on the windsail gaff now and having to rig all the various blocks for the halyards and the lifts, it would have been much better to do this much earlier, before the shrouds were in place. And there's absolutely no reason it should have not been done earlier. The actual rig itself is quite simple. One block is lashed to an eye-ring that is placed near the yoke, and the other one is placed towards the end of the gaff and lashed right on the pole itself. The most difficult thing to do is rigging the parallel beads. You have to drill 2 holes at an angle, and I just put the drill through here to give you an idea. This was done with a starter pin, then a very small drill, and opened up to this size drill. And then you put a 0.5 millimeter line through the hole. You put 17 beads on it, put it on to the main mast, and then tie a knot on the other side, very, very tight. And that knot is quite a struggle to get put in place. The parallel beads look pretty good when installed. We're just adding a little weight to let the line stretch out so that we don't get that bowy shape. One of the key to this video is when I mess up is to admit I messed up and make sure you don't make the same mistake. When I was doing the mast, I thought I had installed all of the various blocks that had to go when it was easy to get access to it. There was a reference to go to sheet 5, for whatever reason I didn't. And so as I'm now installing the bits and pieces, I find there are blocks missing. And it has been very difficult to install the blocks now. So please pay attention and make sure you put all the blocks on while the masts are standing free. But just to take you through it, the top inlift is attached 13 millimeters from the end, goes up to the top block, back down to this single block here, then to the block just below the dead eyes, and then it goes straight down to number 4 on the main gear bit. And in terms of the throat halyard, which is right here, that is attached to the block. It goes down to the block we installed on the gaff, then back up to the same block, and then goes straight down on the gear bit to the belaying pin number 3.